Now, I think that we could all agree here that Disney has had the worst year for 2023, not just because of the Disney stock situation hitting a very big low, but also because of their ongoing box office failures. And let's not forget about everything happening with the merchandise sales for Star Wars hitting an all-time low, their books not selling, and Bob Iger going on a constant lying streak, everything related to kind of reassuring and stringing along the general public, the shareholders, and a whole lot more on top of that. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into what's going on with Snow White 2024 and why it just got a whole lot worse for Disney. Now, we know that Disney is in a constant struggle with this film, not just because of the current re-edits that are underway, but also due in part to the fact of how they have no idea how to market this thing. They are still trying to figure out the funding for the marketing. We already know that there are going to be massive cutbacks for the marketing of Snow White in comparison to The Little Mermaid, so you're not going to see quite as many as TV spots on television or ads on the internet, stuff like that. But we will be getting an official trailer by this holiday season, so keep your eye out for that. It should be around Thanksgiving time, Christmas time, the latest. I don't believe it's going to be the latter, though. However, on top of that, what's even all the more intriguing has a lot to do with specific plot elements of Snow White that are getting out of hand. Now, with Disney lately making all the wrong choices throughout 2023, one major development has to do with Snow White 2024 and its surrounding plot. As it turns out, one significant part of Act 2 that was filmed back in June of 2022 involved a crucial sequence in which Gal Gadot's evil queen makes some kind of a speech to Raven about her plan to take down the patriarchy. This has something to do with taking over King White's castle and becoming the stepmother of Snow White as a plot of some kind to hold power. This was a scene that was written by Greta Gerwig directly. The writer of the Barbie movie and director Mark Webb fully supported the scene and felt it was best fit what he viewed as a modern edge of storytelling. The speech that Gal displays about taking down the patriarchy reportedly takes place within her castle, and it's set in the very beginning of Act 2. Now, additionally, another sequence that was filmed back in April of 2022 involved ZEGLER's Snow White delivering lines of dialogue to the 7 magical creatures, where she begins to go on a rant about the roadblocks and challenges to becoming the leader that she needs to be. Now guys, let me just stop here quick before I get to the next big piece about this. Here's the problem that I have with Snow White already, is the fact that we have Greta Gerwig, one of the writers, by the way, who also wrote the Barbie movie, and I'm not surprised at all in the least that it is meddling with the themes of taking down the patriarchy. This is another thing that Greta is inserting and throwing into Snow White, and it just is a living example that Bob Iger, those at Disney, they don't care about you. They don't care about their customers. This is all about sending a message. And I always like to use that line of the Joker from The Dark Knight, where it's not about money, it's about sending a message. It's becoming more, vivid that this is exactly what Disney fully intends. It's not just about them making a profit or pursuing a profitable opportunity, but it's also about really just sending these messages through entertainment. And it's sad but true, but this is the current status of Hollywood today, especially with Disney being the king of all of this. Now, we know that there's a lot of things happening with this movie. All right, we know that Snow White is going under massive re-edits. Director Mark Webb is specifically supervising and instructing the editors on how to really handle this movie from start to finish, including shaving down the running time, rearranging scenes to improve the flow of the film, and more test screenings on the horizon for screeners to really kind of send feedback over to Disney to kind of give them a better idea of how the re-edits are going. So we know that there's a lot of problems coming out of this film. It's only setting itself up for failure, but let's get to the next big piece about all of this that I feel gets even all the more worse. Not just for Disney, but also for, Bob Iger and the writers and director Mark Webb. So, this is where it gets even more cringeworthy, is that this is where the magical creatures step in and try to give her a flow of confidence by giving her a talk about power and leadership to Snow White. The main purpose of the magical creatures in this film, as it turns out, is for Snow White's leadership skills to be used as a test, as director Mark Webb wanted this movie to be purely focused on Snow White obtaining power and rising above all and her challenges. Additionally, one other sequence shot for the 7 magical creatures involves one of which hanging from a tree and picking apples to eat. This is seemingly used as a foreshadowing of what's to come with the poisonous apple that is said to appear in the middle of the second act of the film. There's even a line of dialogue where the magical creature spits out pieces of the apple and says it's disgusting. However, the apple reportedly does not put her in a deep sleep in this movie, but rather puts her into a severe fatigue state. Now, you can see how bad the comedy of relief really is with the 7 magical creatures. Biting the apple, spitting it out, delivering lines of dialogue, in the nature of saying it's disgusting or it's a bad apple or whatever it may be. The dialogue, generally speaking, for that magical creature is that it's a bad tasting apple. And it's poor foreshadowing of what later arrives at the very end of Act 2. Which is the poisonous apple scene. Alright, we know that there is a specific shot that was presented in this film where you do see the apple smashing into the ground in slow motion, where you see Snow White's hand hit the floor. And basically what happens is this. However, the apple reportedly does not put her in a deep sleep like in the traditional film, like I said before, but rather puts her into this fatigue state. Disney did shoot footage of the traditional scene in which she is in a deep sleep months ago and got a cut into the final cut as they felt it would be too harsh for young audiences. Here's another problem that I have with Disney. How is this too harsh for younger audiences if the Maleficent movie actually had Sleeping Beauty in her bed, pretty much in that deep sleep? I don't see a problem with that at all, and it just seems like Disney is slowly but surely becoming more and more PC over the years, especially throughout all of this year of what's happening with Snow White. Now again, this movie sounds like it really is going in a downward spiral, and no matter what they try to do with these re-edits for Plan A, it's not going to work, because Plan B was to do a lot of refilming, a lot of reshoots, and the strikes got in the way of that, and we'll have to wait and see once the strikes end, if they do end before the start of 2024, if they're going to actually pursue Plan B. If they do, they're going to have to delay this movie from March until, I would have to say, the late summer portion of next year, at the minimum. So overall, I would really like to hear what you guys have to say about all this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
Night to moon, we hear them moans again.